Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we've got a classic logic puzzle that sounds, well, kind of like the start of a weird joke. It's all about a camel, a whole bunch of bananas, and a very long desert. And trust me, the solution is a fantastic lesson in how to think outside the box. All right, so here's the setup. You've got this massive pile of bananas, 3,000 of them, and you need to get them across a 1,000-kilometer desert. Sounds pretty straightforward, doesn't it? But, with any good puzzle, there are always some rules, a few catches that turn it from simple to surprisingly complex. Okay, so these are the rules we have to play by. First, we start with 3,000 bananas. The destination? 1,000 kilometers away. Our camel? It can only carry 1,000 bananas at once. And now for the real kicker, the rule that makes this whole thing a real brainbuster. The camel eats one banana for every single kilometer it travels. And yeah, that counts for return trips too. That one little detail changes everything. So, with those rules in place, our quest becomes pretty clear, right? This isn't just about moving stuff from point A to point B. It's all about optimization. The real game here is figuring out how to deliver the absolute maximum number of bananas by making sure our camel eats the absolute minimum.
All right, so where to even start with a problem like this? Well, let's do what most people do. Let's try the most obvious, straightforward plan, the one that probably just popped in your head.
I mean, why overthink it? Let's just load up the camel with 1,000 bananas, point it towards the destination, and just go. A straight shot, no messing around, no stops. Just one long trip.
So the plan is super simple. Step 1, load up 1,000 bananas. Step 2, walk 1,000 kilometers. It feels totally logical, right? But let's actually run the numbers and see how that plays out.
Just remember that key rule, okay? One banana per kilometer, and the journey is 1,000 kilometers long. So what does that mean for our banana payload? Yep, you got it, a big old zero. The camel walks 1,000 kilometers, so it eats 1,000 bananas. It gets there, sure, but the cargo bay is empty. So that simple plan, it's a total failure. Okay, so right off the bat, we know a single trip is a complete non-starter. And that's actually really useful information. It tells us the solution can't be simple and direct. We've got to get a little more creative with how we think about the journey. And this is where we have that aha moment. What if we stop trying to do it all in one go? What if, instead, we think about it more like a relay race? We move the bananas forward in chunks. We're not just transporting bananas, we're strategically moving an entire stockpile, bit by bit. This approach actually has a name. It's called a depot strategy. The whole idea is to set up these little intermediate drop-off points, caches of bananas right there in the desert. Each one of those depots basically becomes a new starting line, making the next part of the trip shorter. So how do we actually pull this off? Let's dive into the math, because that's where we'll find the most optimal path forward. All right, let's focus on the first leg of the journey. We're starting with all 3,000 bananas, right? The camel can only carry 1,000. So to move the whole pile, it has to go forward with a load, drop it off, come back empty, go forward with another load, come back empty, and then go forward with a final load. That's 3 trips out and 2 trips back. So for every 1 kilometer we advance our bananas, the camel is actually walking 5 kilometers. That means our cost is 5 bananas for every kilometer we gain. Now, we want to pick the perfect spot for our first depot. The smartest move is to keep going at this 5 bananas per kilometer rate until our stockpile drops from 3,000 to 2,000, so we burn through 1,000 bananas. At 5 bananas per kilometer, that gets us exactly 200 kilometers into the desert. Boom! We've just created Depot A, and we have 2,000 bananas sitting there. Okay, check this out. From Depot A, we now only have 2,000 bananas to worry about. So the camel only needs to make 2 trips out and 1 trip back. That's a total of 3 journeys over that stretch. And just like that, our cost plummets from 5 bananas per kilometer down to just 3. See, we're already getting way more efficient. So we repeat the process. We use our new, more efficient 3 banana per kilometer rate to burn through the next 1,000 bananas. So 1,000 bananas divided by 3, that gets us another 333 1/3 kilometers deeper into the desert. And right there, at that spot, we set up Depot B. And what do we have left? Exactly 1,000 bananas. And this is the magic number we've been working towards. We have 1,000 bananas left. That's a perfect single camel load. The back and forth is over. It is time to make the final push, a one-way trip straight to the finish line. So, Let's recap. We've done all the hard strategic work, we've set up our little depots, we've made the whole process as lean as possible. So the big question is, after all that clever planning, what's the final payoff? How many bananas do we end up with? First, let's look at the distance we've covered. That first leg was 200 kilometers to get to Depot A. The second leg was about 333 kilometers to get to Depot B. Add those up, and we've traveled just over 533 kilometers. The total trip is 1,000 clicks, so that leaves us with about 467 kilometers for our final leg. All right, here we go. On this last 467-kilometer stretch, the camel is going to eat, you guessed it, 467 bananas. We started this final leg with 1,000 bananas. So you take 1,000, subtract the 467 the camel ate, and we are left with 533 bananas. And that, my friends, is the absolute maximum number of bananas you can get across that desert. We cracked it.
You know, this puzzle is so much more than just a fun little brain teaser about a camel. It's actually a perfect, stripped-down example of a massive real-world problem called transport optimization. Every single day, logistics companies are solving their own versions of this puzzle, figuring out how to move goods as efficiently as possible to save time and money. It's the same principle, just with trucks and cargo ships instead of a camel and bananas.
So next time you see a delivery truck on the highway or a massive container ship out at sea, maybe you'll think about this. There's some seriously complex math, a whole optimization algorithm working behind the scenes to make that journey happen. They're all just solving their own much bigger version of the camel and the bananas problem. Pretty cool, huh? Thanks for digging into this with us on The Explainer.